Hello, friends. Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. You're going to hear some extra noise in the background, by the way. I've got a grandbaby here today. This is the first time trying to do a live with a grandbaby all by myself. He's playing foosball. Initially, I was going to kind of focus on the idea of, is going off-grid right for you or something like that. But I decided to change the name, just briefly cover a few. That just sounds so loud to me. Anyway, a few of the points. And I want to predicate this on something recently I saw that you guys might already know about, but I hardly ever go to the store, so I don't know anything about it. But it was in our a local Facebook page for forks, and our one store that we have. No, we have other stores, but I mean our one big grocery store that's also our clothing store, the shoe store, and the hardware store. There was some kind of cyber attack on, I can't remember the name of one of the big companies, Natural Foods or something like that, that caused a glitch. So thus, because of this, a lot of the orders around the whole country did not go through. And so the stores are low on a good number of products. And I noticed in the comments, of course, I kind of scrolled through there and someone said, "Oh, thanks for the update." Somebody else said, "Yeah, I noticed there was a lot of empty shelves." So I'm like, so of course I shared it. I shared it to my Facebook page. And with the statement of, this is one of the reasons why we like to have our own food storage. You never know when something like this is going to happen. Or maybe, bringing up another incident that happened here, or maybe a blizzard that blocks off the roads coming into town from either side so the trucks can't get through. And then another one, roads washing out due to the heavy, heavy, heavy rains. There's varying degrees of being off grid, and it's not being fully off grid is not right for everyone. And nobody should ever feel guilted or pressured into doing that. Because not everybody can, whether it be because of finances or because of health reasons, that you got to have a constant, dependable power source. But then again, this is why it's important. If you have to have a constant, dependable power source due to certain medical things that need to be running, then you got to have backups, because you cannot depend on your public power grid to always be there for you. We certainly can't. Sometimes they have scheduled power outages, not sometimes, quite frequently, but just as often we have unscheduled power outages. It happens a lot here. So I guess that's part of what I wanted to talk about, is the idea of reducing your dependency on the system. And that means the whole system. So not just the power grid, but also the water and the food and the medicine, the whole gamut of things. But let's just start by talking a little bit about power, not like I've never talked about it before. But yes, we do have solar power. And yes, through this time of the year, even here in our very cloudy, wet climate, in the summertime, we can get a pretty good amount of solar power. We've only got a total of 4 different solar power outlets, one in the kitchen, one in the dining room, one in the living room, and one in the foyer. So when typically anything we want to run all the time, we've got it worked out so there's no extension cords going across the floor and stuff. We can just, like our internet, the washing machine, the refrigerator. However, we can't depend on that solar power all the time, especially during the winter, because not only do we live in a very, especially through winter, it's almost constant cloud cover. And so we've got that. In winter, obviously your days are much shorter. The sun is much lower. So you're just not getting as much direct sun for the solar panels to collect and build up the battery bank. So we have to be very careful about what we use on the solar power during that time of the year. So we become more, as far as certain things, we become more dependent on the public power for that. But we have other backup sources. We have gas and diesel generators that if we ever need them. Mostly we just use the quiet gas generator here. We've never had to use any other generator as a backup during a power outage. But as you guys know, we also have a wood stove, which is also just like the solar power, another, well, not near as expensive, not near as much of an investment as solar power, because you got to have your solar panels, your battery bank, your inverter, blah, blah, blah. You got to have all this stuff. And if you have to pay somebody to install it, it's going to be more expensive. Patrick did all the work himself. And we're not grid tied. We absolutely refuse to do that. Bad move to be grid tied. And that's the other thing. A lot of people couldn't afford to go that route. So the point, I guess, that I'm trying to make is we decided to, it was really a big chance we took knowing how little sun we get here. But most people around here, they'll just invest in a good generator. And when there's power outage, it used to be nobody could afford a generator, so hardly anyone around here had them. But now most people around have a generator because we get power outages so often. But I also don't want to be dependent on gas all the time when there's a power outage. So that's why I like having many other options. Just like I talk about the camp stove I have over here, you can't see right now. It's just out of view next to the sliding glass door. It's a camp oven with a stovetop, so that if maybe it's this time of the year, maybe we've had a long, dark, stormy time, even if it's that time of the year we're getting lots of sun, maybe it's still not enough to keep our battery bank charged up, or something goes wrong with it, the whole solar setup. I know that I can at least during a power outage use that to bake pies, breads, and whatnot in. Because in the middle of summer, I don't want to build a fire to cook and dry my clothes with. So I guess that's the point I'm trying to say. And just like Tammy's saying there, our grid is so vulnerable. And it's so funny because years ago on my channel, I finally had to block this person because he was such a jerk. But I was talking about power outages and, why we do what we do, kind of like what I'm doing now. And he's like, and I said something about the power grid, you can't depend on it. So and he just basically called me a conspiracy theorist. And I'm thinking, power outages happen all the time. At least around here, they happen to us all the time. And you hear about power outages happening to other people all over the place. So why does he think that that's crazy to be ready for power outages? I mean, he was just slamming me up to one side and down the other for that. And I'm like, you're delusional. I didn't say that to him, but I was thinking that, man, this guy is delusional. And I just said, we get power outages all the time here. They are commonplace. It's really irresponsible to live in an area like here and not at least have some kind of light source and some kind of cook source and some way to stay warm in the winter, because power outages are so common. Now, I can understand if a new person move in here and they move from a place where maybe they never have power outages, because maybe there really are places like that. They may have to experience a few power outages before they realize the importance of having backups. But that's my point, though. It's not about going fully off grid. It's not about, getting rid of this, that, and the other thing. It's about making sure that you have ways to get done the things you most need to get done. That's why, to me, having a treadle machine was really important. I can use that at any time. And here was something that was interesting. It was one time we were having another one of the many power outages, and I was already going to the store anyway, because I needed to get some more jars. And at that time, you can tell it was a long time ago, because now I have so many jars, I run out of places to store them. But I'm in there picking up some jars, and one of the managers like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing?" "Oh, I got to get some more jars. I got more canning to do." He goes, how are you doing canning with the power outage? I didn't even think of it. I just said it. It's like, because I do it on gas. So I do it outside on gas. Now, that's something else though too. What if we run out of propane and we have a power outage and maybe we're out of firewood? I mean, you got to always kind of think ahead, like you can't assume that this backup's always going to be there for you either. And especially for extended power outages, it's possible they could be out long enough that you're going through all your fuel and all your propane if you don't have a good storage. So yes, you got to think about the things that are most important to you so that you can reduce your complete dependency on any one of these systems. I'm not saying, cut it out completely, just reduce it. And so the same goes with food, obviously. There's not one person, I don't care what they claim, that's able to grow everything that they are currently consuming. Some people can grow most of it. But I know people, even the people that grow them far more than we do, they still have to go to the store or order stuff from Costco or Misfits Market or something to fill in the holes. As your standard. Can't believe I didn't say that one first. And a lot of that's going to be dependent on how much space you have. Like if you want to grow enough wheat to make your own bread for the whole year, you're going to have a pretty good chunk of land. If you want to grow enough corn, to have enough corn canned up or dried up or whatever to get you through a whole year, you're going to have a pretty good chunk of area for that too. I'm not saying you can't be fully independent of the store when it comes to food. You can be. You just will have to be reducing also the variety of food that you have. Because there's like here, peaches just don't really grow good here. Like I was talking about recently, but we love peaches. So we're going to stock up on peaches whenever we can get them for a good price and can them up and dry them up and make jams and whatnot, syrups. By the way, peach rhubarb syrup is pretty good. It's pretty good stuff. And then of course, medically speaking, let me start by saying one of the two top reasons why I decided it was time to go ahead and see if I could go off the thyroid medication. First of all, in my gut, I had this feeling that I bet we don't need this. I bet we could really just change our diet or do something better or find something natural to replace this, that we don't have to be on this synthetic medication. But the other thing was that, what if something happens and I have no access to this medication but I'm dependent on it? What am I going to do? So that is why I decided to make it my own personal quest to find what kind of foods, what kind of herbs can I add or take away that will help our thyroids, because both Patrick and I were on the thyroid medication. He was on Synthroid. I was on levothyroxine. 15 years each. And I'm like, that's a long time to be on a medication and trying to go off of it. I wonder how dependent my body is on it. But I've made it a quest. I learned as much as I could and then started taking those steps and slowly weaned myself first and then Patrick off of it. Yeah, I learned things like nettle being very nourishing to the thyroid and so on and so forth, and just started incorporating a lot of this stuff. And we haven't been on the medication. I think it was 2012 that we went off the medication, so it would be 13 years. There's that, but I'm not going to make any kind of claims that everybody can get off their medication, because people on medications for all kinds of things, and they might be fully dependent on it. They might have been on it so long, or they're at such an age, there might not be any going back. I would like to believe there is. There's a part of me that just really believes a person can do it, but there's so many different conditions and situations that I don't want to make such general statements. I just can't do that. That would be inappropriate. And anyone who does, I think, is not seeing the whole picture or considering all the different possibilities. I mean, every day, I swear, I learn about some new disease and new drug I've never heard about before. What I did think was interesting was a lady made a comment on one of my videos about how she's got leukemia. And she had been drinking herbal teas. She didn't say what kind. She was just talking about how she was drinking herbal teas, and her doctor, and she was feeling better while drinking these herbal teas, but her doctor told her to stop. And she's like, what's your opinion? Do you think that he's doing that just so that they can keep me on the medication? I'm not her doctor and I'm not a doctor. My thinking is it is very possible. That's why he doesn't want her drinking herbal teas, because they're working. But I don't want to say that with any certainty. I just said, this is absolutely 100% my opinion and nothing else. I think you're correct on that. So I do find that interesting, is usually the things that do work are the things they try to, when I say I'm not talking about all doctors, I'm not talking about everyone within the medical community. I'm talking about those doctors, those people within the medical community that have come to a point where they're in it only for the money and they don't actually care about their patients. Because if they actually cared about their patients, they would listen to their patients and they would say, yeah, if that's working for you. But there could be other reasons. Maybe it's because the doctor doesn't know what kind of herbal teas, or maybe there's a possibility there's certain herbs that could cause issues in other ways. I don't know that. That's why I don't want to say anything give some kind of definitive answer on that, because I could be way off on that. But those are things that it's good to think about. It's just like my mom, I kept telling her, I think you need to ask your doctors why you're on so many medications. Why are you on so many different antidepressants? Because she just trusted them wholeheartedly. When she finally started asking them, then they finally decided to take the time and look at her medical charts and go, oh, wow, yeah, you don't need to be on this, that, and that. And when they took her off this, that, and that, suddenly she started doing a little bit better. She started gaining back her mental clarity more and not having all the signs of someone who's in a total dementia, because that's how she was acting for a while until they took her off all the excess medications. Most of them were probably excess, but they took her off at least some of the excess, and it made a difference. That at least that last year of her life, I was able to have a conversation with her every day, and she understood what I was saying. There was no her thinking I was her and that I should have 5 kids and not just 2. And then, of course, water. Water is so incredibly important. Water is actually a little more important than food. So what is it? You can go like 30 days without food, but only 3 days without water. So you got to make sure you have some kind of water source. Now, that's obviously water's not always dependent on electricity, depending on your water source. We have both rainwater catchment with underground tanks that when we need to pump the water out, we have that runs on our solar power. But we're also on city water, and it doesn't use power because it goes off of pressure. But that doesn't mean we can always depend on our city water. Sometimes main breaks happen and the water gets shut off for a whole day. And when it has happened ever since we've had our rainwater, I'm just like, man, I am so glad that we have this water. I mean, I usually still wait to do certain things until the city water comes back on because it's easier, because it comes straight from the tap. Whereas the rainwater, I'd have to go gather it. But I always have, at least 30 gallons of filtered water stored in glass jugs. And then the rest is unfiltered. But, if I need to use it to water my plants, that's easy. I just walk out there and water. In fact, I do a lot of watering with the rainwater from under the ground. And I don't have to depend on the city water for that. And my hose is long enough I could reach all of my garden areas, even the ones in the front. There can be water contamination too. That's another thing. Like, you hear of chemical spills. Any of these things can happen where you can't drink the water. You might still actually have water coming out of your tap, but you can't drink it. And I can remember quite a number of years ago when I first started really getting into the seriousness of making sure we had backups. There was some big accident that happened back east. I don't remember what state or city. And there was some kind of factory chemical spill that happened into the water supply. And so people were without water for, drinkable, potable water for, I don't remember how long. And within an hour of this happening, all the stores were wiped out of bottled water and anything drinkable. Within an hour, people flooded into the stores. And so just like in 2020, when it was a toilet paper shortage, because people, for some reason, thought toilet paper was far more important than food. And then you had this kind of domino effect. Oh, man, these people are buying up all the toilet paper. Well, we should get a stash, too, before they buy up all the toilet paper. It's the same thing. And you see it happen over and over again. You have people that still want to say that you're crazy. But I don't know if I finished saying what I said in that post. It's like, this is what I think I did, but I'll say it again. This is why we do what we do. It's not crazy. It's common sense. It's being diligent. It's being responsible with what you have, with your money and your resources and your time. And, we could be like a lot of people, and we could take our money, resources, and time and spend it into going to trips to Disneyland or Disney World. No, never. Thank you. But I use that as an example. I mean, I don't even have a desire to go to Hawaii. If I was going to go anywhere, I would just love to go see Old World Italy, or go to some small, obscure town in Italy. And hopefully somebody can speak English, because I don't know enough Italian to survive. But anyway, but even then I'm like, nope, I can forego that. I can live without that, because that's not near as important as making sure that we can take care of ourselves, our grandbabies, our children, if they need a place to go in a really tough situation. And now my boys each have generators, so they're good as far as that goes. But I want to know I'm here for them. And that's where I would much rather spend my money, my time, my resources, my energy, is making sure that I am set, making sure that I'm being smart and using common sense and not wasting my money on Mickey Mouse ears or something stupid like that. Now, no offense to those people who like that kind of stuff. No offense to people who really feel the need to have to buy a coffee stand coffee once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day. No offense. But to me, that is a massive waste of money. When I can take that same money and I can put up more food, or I can buy ourselves a generator, or we can set up our chicken coop, build a chicken coop, and get ourselves some chickens, and set ourselves up our solar power setup and our rainwater catchment. I can't remember what I've already said, so I'm probably repeating myself. I apologize. Getting more of our garden infrastructure in place to keep the chickens out and the neighborhood dogs and whatever else, or the deer and the elk that like to come through here from time to time. Thanks for being here. Take care, and God bless.